Welcome back to the French Rugby Podcast with me, Tim Groves, ex-Scotland international and adopted Frenchman, Johnnie PT. And Merry Christmas, one and all. Benji's back. How are you?
Merry Christmas, boys. I apologize, number one, for my absence of the last couple of weeks. It wasn't, the heart was there, but the reality of the agenda just couldn't make it happen. A shit ton to catch up on. Probably quite useful considering there's been zero rugby at the weekend.
Yeah.
But I don't know, where do you want me to start? Personally, I'm okay. My girls are mega excited about Christmas. 7 and 4 is that moment where everything counts, everything that's sparkly, yummy, and is good about it. And to be honest, they're an absolute lifesaver at the moment when things can get pretty gloomy. And all I need is like a little Christmas song, and I got the two little ones who are bouncing at the back of the car, and they're like, we're gold. So that's good. And then obviously, well, I'm sure you guys are going to ask me about Dubai because you're very, very jealous. But I did bump into some Oxford sort of cohort members in Dubai. So that's how far my network is. Between Clermont-Ferrand and London, I was all right. Now Dubai is just a different level.
Not much rugby to talk about, but you've been playing, so come on.
I have been playing, and I was shitting myself. I really was. Like I try to keep myself fit, so I go to the gym. I coach, tummy draws with David Strettle and all my mates and stuff. So I do all the fitness with them. I'm that idiot, who doesn't do the training but only does the fitness and goes next to the guys. Come on, you gotta move. But because I want to feel my ego get a little bit better because I can run decently compared to them. Well, to some of them, don't get me wrong. There's some of them are very fit, but no, it's the old, the same story as Rodrigo Oncero calls me up and I couldn't resist to go and give him a big bear hug and spend some time with him. Well, a guy that I've known for the last 20 years calls me up 6 months ago, who technically was my first agent and really helped me out. A guy called Laurent Guettard, who's involved in like sporting marketing in France. And he's like, man, I've got these guys in Dubai. He's head of a tourism officer. They're throwing this team called the French Frogs Legends. And it's for this Vets tournament in Dubai. Have you ever been to Dubai Sevens? No. Have you ever heard of it? Yes. It's like 70,000 people who want to go on the piss. I think Dubai Sevens is the only one where there's social teams absolutely everywhere around it. And so it's a big party, right? Everybody's laughing and having fun. And that was 7 months ago. And I was like, yeah, why not? But to be honest, if I'm going to justify this, it needs to be work related. But all the sponsors that they're having there are all top French companies. You can imagine that, sort of the Dubai being a huge center of world economy, the type of French companies we're talking about, L'Oréal, Total, Accor, Veolia, all those monsters. And me and Rory Lawson, your mate, Johnnie, we're doing quite a lot of leadership development at the time and stuff, and so there was another way of making it work. So we would play a bit of rugby, get some sponsorship, but also actually work there. And it is like putting a foot into that department. So selling that to my wife was pretty easy. 3 days of rugby, a day or two of work. Does that work? Yeah, except I accepted some more work after and some more work before back in France. So I was gone for a whole week. That didn't go down very well. I'm a very poor planner, I must say, but the work was great. The connections were great. And 2 days of rugby were just mega, mega, mega fun. It was incredible. So I was pooping myself before the first game. I didn't know who I was going to have in front of me. And then you would come up against a team of, no disrespect, guys that were 250 years old, but Andrew Trimble, boom, just there. In front, and he's looking at me, giving a wink. It was not interested in even going to third gear, so it was okay. He was still faster than me. Don't get me wrong, but he wasn't like outpacing us completely. But 40 degrees, old mates that I haven't seen for 20 years. Rémi Martin, who I started in Stade with for a couple of years.
He's a dangerous man. He's a dangerous man.
What do you mean?
Well, every time I see him, he's on like a 2-day, like he can go and he can go and he can go, and he loses me on the first night, but he's got some power. He's a freak show.
Nah, he's a top boy
awesome
who loves a bit of party. But to be fair, to be totally honest, it's not just because it's recorded. We didn't go hard out. It was just so much fun to be outside in the sun, having a few beers, watching rugby. So we played, right? We saw every 10 meters, there's a guy I haven't seen for 10 years. In my team, there's guys I haven't seen for 20 years. I scrummaged with Christian Califano, Lucid, and Omar Hassan Taited. There's 250 international caps around me. I am over the moon. It was just that type of brotherhood sort of moment. I bumped into Tom Varndale, who I first played in Leicester with, and then you bump into Jason Robinson, and then obviously Hask is there because he's DJing and all that. And I'm just thinking, the rugby community is tiny. It's a tiny little spot in the world, and whenever you meet everybody in Dubai, everybody's having fun. It was extraordinary. And on top of that, I must take my hat off to the Sevens boys. It's the first time that I get to watch some actual modern Sevens from the touchline. And we watched the quarterfinal, which was France, USA. My word, are they fit? Do they go fast? And are they big? I didn't notice the Sevens players were that big. They're absolute monsters. It's just a cool event, really great. The body wasn't shattered too much because honestly, the intensity wasn't there, and we did pace ourselves by chopping beers all day, obviously, and that was all good.
Do we believe this? I was going to say 2 days of rugby. I was expecting a week of recovery at least, Johnny.
All I know is Andrea listens to the podcast, so that's what she needs to know. I wanted to ask you, like you mentioned, you said you were pooping yourself. Like I did one of these tours with the Classic Lions. Went to Bermuda, and in the very first game, Ryan Grant, who's a British Lions loose head prop, played for Scotland with me. He dislocated his shoulder in like the third action of the game. Then in like the second half, our second row, a guy called Chris Bentley, played for Exeter, spiral fracture in his ankle. And I was like, mate, this is my first time and the last time I'm ever doing this. Like it freaked me out. And physically now, I've got no desire to go back. Like even these types of tournaments, I'm like, what if? Like it scares me. So how were you with the physical bits? Because now that we're 2 years out of it, did you find it okay, or were you a little bit hesitant, or is it scary?
So Laurent Guettard, so my mate who got me into this, had already played the tournament the year before. Obviously, there wasn't one the year before, but 2 years before, and he's 51. Okay, so there's already that age gap. Is only for the over 36. So I'm 37. I was considered to be sort of one of the youngest of this thing. He was like, "Listen, you can trust me. There is zero intensity." And to be honest, the rucks were very chilled. The boys had a big smile on their face.
Good.
Everybody was playing around, and we played in like international vets. But then there's international vets social, and we were in the social.
Oh, that's
which was a great shout. Which was a great idea. I mean, to tell you, like, listen, kick off Andrew Trimble looks. It's like bling bling. The boys just wanted to have fun. It's 7 minutes. 7 minutes. I mean, there's kickoff. I was already asking the ref, how long is that long? Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, good. It's all right. I was apprehensive of. You don't want to disappoint, right? I'm sort of the young fella.
You want to be good.
You have to be good. I mean, you have to sort of do well and bring to the old fellas and try to contribute. And it's guys for whom, so the guys who are actually organizing this, the French Dubai guys, mate, for them, it's the World Cup. It's the Lions tour. They absolutely love it. It's their moment to shine. But I understand. I mean, when we had the lineup that they put together, it was like 400 French caps and stuff, and we were all like a bunch of 16-year-olds just having fun, jumping on the bus, singing songs in the morning, and then chopping beers once it was done and catching a bit of sun. So y a rien à jeter, nothing to throw.
So given that you had to be good, Benji, do you want to throw out any names, anyone you run over the top of, ran round?
No. I scored. I did score a 50-meter try. I'm surprised you guys didn't mention it because I think it was all over the web.
Is there evidence? Yeah. Can we see the clip?
Of course. I mean, it was all over the web, but you guys just didn't follow. But
send it to us. You'll send it to us.
But Jalil Narjisi, who's a good 10 years older than me, caught with me. I mean, caught up with me, I think, I don't know, in about 4 seconds. That's to tell you the top maximum speed that I was at. And I still managed to score. I think it was one of them that sometimes guys just stopped walking. You just stop even walking. You know, they're like, yeah, just go on, score, it's fine. So it's not top intensity, not top level. We did manage to lose because we got pumped in the semi because we played against a team and it's mainly English and Irish and whatever, who were well up for it. Hoo la la, we were not interested, but they did well and they won it.
When Benji's been busy, Johnny, you've had an eventful week as well. You left the south of France and set off for Glasgow just after we recorded last week, well before the travel restrictions came into force. So I imagine that was straightforward, eh?
You would think so, Tim. You would think it would be straightforward. We were due to leave Biarritz Airport at 6 o'clock, but around 8 o'clock that morning, there was the heaviest and lowest fog you've ever seen hit the city. So every other flight got rerouted to either Bordeaux, Lourdes, or Pau. We got to the airport around 4. Everything was cancelled. They were told, look, we could even look, we saw on like our live flight tracker that our plane literally turned around and was heading to Bordeaux. We're like, oh, we're going to Bordeaux. So we sat and waited. They organized a bus for us. So we got on a bus maybe about 9:30. We got to the airport about 4:00 with 3 small children, 3 under 5, which, as you can imagine, the only thing open was one vending machine, which got looted fairly quickly. No cafes, no restaurants. The bus got us up there. We got into London at something like 2 a.m. So it was not the most easy of journeys, but we got there. I think there's going to be people worse off who don't make it, and things are going to get a lot worse over the next couple of weeks. So it was not easy, but we got to London, got to our hotel. We got 4 hours sleep with the kids, and then we got our next flight up to Glasgow the next day. So it was a fairly stinking 48 hours, but after sort of a day of sleeping it off the next day, we were a little bit brighter for it. So no, just happy to have made it home. Also, it's been nice. My little sister got a Sports Personality of the Year award from the BBC last night, which was really cool. The Helen Rollison Award from BBC Sport. So it's been really cool to celebrate with her. We're all a bit dusty today. We had way too much to drink last night, watching it together on TV and celebrating as a family, but really proud of her.
I was going to mention the Sports Personality of the Year award, Johnny, because there was a emotional video that you were a part of as well, and you made it home to celebrate all together. So, I mean, that must have been, it made the traveling worthwhile for sure. And then, you must be proud of her.
No, it was epic. Absolutely. And again, we put a little video on, they put one on BBC Sport. We shared it on our social media pages. But again, people won't know the story. So halfway through the pandemic, she got diagnosed with breast cancer. She got diagnosed, but then we couldn't see her. She couldn't travel home to see mum and dad. She couldn't see us in France. So she ultimately had to just rely on her teammates to be her family throughout the process of being diagnosed with breast cancer at age 30 and going through the process of, how does this work? How do I get it out? How do I get radiotherapy? How do I heal? And the whole way through it, she's normally an extremely private person. And this is the amazing bit. She had the medical team and the support of her teammates at Arsenal, who were superb. But she then decided to use her platform with social media and with Arsenal women and with Scottish women, with the football sides, to use it to educate other people and raise awareness and say, look, if you've got a lump, go and get checked. So that's why the award came from BBC Sports Personality, to recognize the amazing work she'd done in the wider world during a pandemic, through COVID, through the use of social media and through friends and network, to raise awareness for cancer research and say, look, if you've got lumps or bumps, go and check yourself out, go and get checked and try and nip it in the bud. So extremely proud of her. We're very lucky that she's still here, which is also very, very special. So the fact that we managed to get back and celebrate that with her, and drink way too much nice red wine last night together, no, it's very cool. I'm very proud of her. We
can all get a bit down at this time of year when we're hearing things on the news, but stories like that, Benji, it's good, isn't it? Inspiration for us all.
100%. It puts everything back in perspective. Just it's so inspiring and heartwarming to know that, you know, the power of the human brain, and when people are well surrounded, and when you've got, you know, when your heart is filled with love and your brain is ready never to give up, then nothing's impossible. And it's just extraordinary. I'm just happy that she got acknowledged in such a way, because I realize how big this is in the UK by being here. And just huge congratulations to her, but to the whole family. I think you guys well deservedly can be extremely proud. It's pretty unreal. It's almost like, I don't know, like having a good podcast about French rugby. It's almost as good as that.
Same level. But the coolest bit about it is, through pandemics and shit times, one of the best things, again, for us not being able to be there as a family for her in person, has been team sport. Like whether it be rugby, whether it be football, it doesn't matter. You're keeping yourself socially active, but the social network, like you just mentioned it, Benji, in your Dubai. You get out to Dubai, you've got a social network from Claremont, from rugby clubs, from education. And that was the really amazing thing for us as a family, was that it was her football family that looked after her and got her through it. And And that's the same in football clubs or rugby clubs. It's irrelevant to sport, but the power of having those friendships and bonds and teammates to pull you through things when other people can't be there. So, we're incredibly proud of her, but also of her team, of her support staff, the medical staff, the coaching team that rallied around her and looked after her as well, because we couldn't be there. So a big thank you to them too.
Well, there wasn't too much inspiring about the Champions Cup this weekend, but we should talk about some professional rugby, not just Benji's exploits in Dubai. There was one French team that played in the Champions Cup, so we will chat about them in a bit. But just take us back to Friday, because the French government imposed travel restrictions with the UK starting at midnight on Saturday. And then there was a big meeting of all the French clubs at lunchtime on Friday. So what do we know about what went on in that meeting and what transpired?
Is that one for me? Are you asking me like if I was in that meeting? I have no clue.
I assume you've got the finger on the pulse, Benji. You know what happens in all these French political meetings.
So to be fair, I did follow that pretty closely because I was due to work on the Clermont-Sale game. So I was really chuffed. I could have seen all the boys and stuff, even though the team would have been largely changed and there was a lot of young faces and stuff. But still, it would have been really cool to catch up with a couple of the boys. But they were very doubtful that the game was ever going to be held anyway, just because, for one, they were not allowed to pick any players that were non-vaccinated. And some guys still aren't, apparently, for personal reasons. On top of that, the week before, Gilles Concorier, the big number 6, tested positive. Camille Lopez was CAC contact, and so they had to wait. And, so all those things that keep on adding up, and they knew that it wasn't good. Apparently, the Clermont boys told me that there was another positive case in their ranks anyway. So they knew that it was going to be very unlikely. But what I heard is that that last final meeting was to say, right, both teams, all the teams were allowed to travel. But what happens if one of them tests positive when they're testing before they travel back? Do they need to isolate in the foreign country, or can they still allow to travel and then to isolate at least at home because it's Christmas? To be fair, I couldn't understand how they could have made that decision public. How the hell can a government be like, oh, it's fine now, don't worry, you guys can fly back? It's impossible, right? So I think it's only normal that they canned it. They didn't allow it in most cases. And that's why all the teams who didn't go is because they didn't get that authorization. So yes, people say that they could have canned the whole round, maybe, but we're still happy to see a couple of games, aren't we? I mean, I think Castres were still glad that they went to Munster, even though they lost by a close margin. But still, it's a proper trip. It's a proper stadium. It's exactly what we love about European rugby, and they're there to prove it. Yes, is the Champions Cup a shambles this year? 100%. Are we back into Exeter, who won it? What is it, last year? But then they forfeited. Oh no, that was 2 years ago. But they forfeited in Toulouse. That first pool game. Yes, of course, it's going to be mega complicated. I think it's Sale that rocked up in quarterfinals by not winning one game. There's like some extraordinary things that are going to happen. Yes, of course. Is it unfair? Yes, of course. But is it bigger than us? Yes, of course too. And they've got to take decision. And whenever we can play rugby, we should just, exactly like you said, happy that some guys play from time to time, and the others, when they don't, then we'll think about Johnny's sister and be like, there's some smarter, braver, more powerful hearted people around there. Let's focus on them rather than our little sorrow.
And Johnny, we know that out of that meeting on Friday, apparently the French clubs were unanimously in favour of the whole of round 2 being postponed. So would that have been preferable, or was it right to play the games that got played?
I think if you do, again, you can't choose the time scale because we're not governments. They're dictated to by the government. So they've made the best decision with what they've got. I was meant to be working, like you, Benji, for the BT game, the Bath La Rochelle game. So I was messaging the La Rochelle boys, and they were the exact same. They were ready to travel, ready to go. And around about midday on Friday, they got the boys, it's postponed, everyone just go home. So they'd done their team run, they were ready to get on the plane, and then they U-turned. And it is a shame because they absolutely love this competition. Like Ehia West spoke to us last week about how much they enjoyed playing against Glasgow, the difference of breaking away from top 14 in the marathon, and the different types of refereeing and the playing strategies and the people you're playing against, the variation and the history of the competition. It's, for me, the best competition in European rugby. It's fantastic. So, look, it's a shame, but they've done the best they can. And yes, it would be best to postpone every single game in round 2, but some people had already travelled. Like some teams were already on their way. now that it's going to come down to where can they find space to play these games. So the games they've postponed from round 2, are we going to get completion of rounds 3 and 4? Is that going to happen with the imminent impending doom that is coming from our governments? And then even if they do get rounds 3 and 4 played, where are they going to find space? Are they going to maybe break off one of the knockout games and just make it one leg, or just knock away 2 of them and just play quarterfinal? How are they going to find space to get these games played? That is the question that needs to be asked, because there's no way you can find an extra weekend between Six Nations, top 14, Premiership. It's impossible. So look, it's not ideal. Nobody wants to see it. You want to see the competition played the right way because it's the best competition. But as we've all seen the past couple of years, we aren't in normal times. So suck it up and get on with it.
And Castres were the one French club that did play away at Munster, because that's in Ireland and the same travel restrictions aren't in place there as with the UK. But their president came out and said they didn't want to play. He also described the situation as absurd. So is he right?
Well, I think if you look at the body language, he's saying one thing for the club, it maybe isn't in the best interest to, but the players didn't show that. The players actually, from a really mixed team of guys that hadn't played in a while, youthful guys that we haven't seen much of, really kind of fronted up. And although it wasn't a fantastic game of rugby, it was typical Castres. Like Benji and I both played there. It was dogged, it was aggressive, it was in your face, it was right to the end. So actually the coaching staff will kind of be happy with the exercise. Like they've had another game under their belt, no big bad injuries, game time for some key people before they go into the big Christmas game. So look, the whole situation is absurd and it will continue to be absurd, but actually they acquitted themselves really well in what can't have been an easy game and an easy situation. And they've shown they were capable of being agile, adapting and fronting up away against one of the biggest sides historically in European competition. So I think it's different for Pierre Rivalry's point of view and thinking for the club and Castres on a sort of wider scale. But in terms of the actual guys, the coaching staff and the players that were put out on the field, they actually did a really good job.
But from a club perspective, Benji, if he says they didn't have a choice because of the financial implications as well as the sporting sanctions after that meeting on Friday, is that right?
I just think the clubs are le cul entre deux chaises. They're the ass between two seats. It's impossible for them to like
We've heard that phrase a few times, haven't we? They are.
It's back into the same thing. I think what he's saying is that if all those games are going to have to be fitted at some point, if like Johnnie said, if the 2 legs of 8th of final are then going to be summed up to 1, then why play one game and not the others, and why not just can the whole thing? True. But I think you never need to forget that those games are being played for the players. Yeah, but they're also being played for the guys who watch them. And people love to see a bit of rugby at the moment where it's a bit gloomy and all dark. So I think that the president is just fighting for his own little interests. I feel that, like, for all those clubs, what matters is top 14. And you cannot jeopardize any of that. And that's no disrespect. I feel definitely that's the priority for a club like Castres. And so they're thinking, imagine if one gets positive, they can't come back. There's going to be a whole shambles when the players been pissed off of being away from their families for Christmas, and that means that it's going to postpone another top 14 game. It's another income loss because there's a home game that will need to be played during the week. All those stuff. That's the implications that they're thinking about. So between finance being tight, between everything being very blurry, back to being very blurry for the next couple of weeks. Yes, it is complicated. Now he can say whatever you want. What matters is the boys fronting up, like Johnnie said, and they did a hell of a good job. And just by seeing their proud faces at that time, I think they respected the jersey, they respected the stadium, because Limerick Stadium, Thomond Park is a proper place to play rugby. And I think in every single rugby player's mind, to go there is a proper challenge. And when you front up that way, you can be very proud of yourself.
When you consider Castres had lost 26 of the last 27 away games in the competition, Munster have only ever lost 5 home games. That margin, they were good, weren't they?
They were good, but like it's two teams that are actually pretty relatively similar in the way that they address rugby. Extremely physical, very, very aggressive, and maybe with a tiny bit more structure and discipline on the Munster side, a bit more flair and unpredictability. I don't know if you can say that on the Castres side, but to and obviously the how do you say that, the dominant force would have been Munster on paper. They're at home, and they need to prove, but two teams who can seriously front up and address that physical side of rugby. So I think both teams would be happy with the result, because Munster just needed to win. Castres needed to show up, prove they've got nothing to hide, and then move on from it.
And Rory Cockett was marched back 10 meters after repeatedly being warned for giving the refs some back chat. And that's a week after he was caught shouting bullshit or something at the referee. So is this a growing issue in the game? Is it just Rory Cockett? Is he one of the worst offenders? What do you reckon, Benji?
Growing issue in the game, yes and no. I reckon there was a lot more flying words in good old days, but you couldn't catch them because there was no ref mics. But is Rory Cockett going to change? Nope. Is he very lippy? Is that how you say?
Yeah.
100%. 1,000%. Is he a number 9 that needs to be a little bit like that? Well, yes, there's no argument to be made. Is his whole game, but to be fair, Johnny, you can't deny that. That's Castres' game. They want to make you lose your shit. They want to push you right all the way to the edge and to be there. And they've always been like that. And Babio is like that, and Rory Cockett is like that, and a lot of them have always been like that. But because that's why Christophe Furios liked it so much. You want to be on the edge all the time. Does he go too far, Rory Cockett? Yes, I'm sure sometimes he does. Yes, of course he does. And with the French team, we used to tell him to shut up quite a lot. But is it part of his game? Is it harmless? Absolutely. It's just part of, too much. So basically my answer is to say, is it getting out of hand? I don't think so. It's just that now you can hear it a lot more. And is Rory out of hand? Yes, but he's not the only one, and it's pretty harmless. It's just part of his number 9 attitude that you need to be on the edge anyway.
Johnny, you played with him too. Give us your insight. And who else is in that bracket with Rory Cockett as the worst offenders, or the lippiest, as Benji said?
Honestly, he's in a league of his own. I played with him. He's hilarious as well. But the antagonistic point of his personality is unlike any other that I've come across in rugby. He absolutely lives for it. And that's not just with opposition. He's like that in training with his teammates. So don't just think that that's just at the weekend for cameras. Although I think there's a bit of him that loves that as well. Being on Top 14, Canal Plus cameras, and playing up, because geez, does he play up. But I think he would actually be a better rugby player if he minimalised it a little bit. If he spent less time gesticulating, being OTT with the refs and with opposition, and just like stuck to his game, because he's a seriously talented rugby player. And look, he divides and he splits opinion in France. Like, he's like Marmite. You either love Rory or you hate Rory. And he absolutely loves that as well. He thrives on it. So he's announced his retirement at the end of the year. You've got 6 months left to either enjoy loving him or enjoy hating him when he plays. And I think he's going to go into coaching it with Castres as well. So, like, geez, as well, like, just the personality, like managing the guy, like you said, Benji, like the amount of times you told him maybe to shut up with the French side, but the amount of times you have scraps or training, but it'd be amazing to see him as a coach. I've got no idea what he'd be like as a coach, how he would get on with that, because he is in his own mind, he does his own thing, and I have no idea how that would translate to the coaching world. But you're certainly always in a better place when you've got Rory on your team. Let's just say that, as opposed to playing against him, because geez, does he wind boys up.
It is Christmas. If we were picking a pantomime villain of rugby, it'd be Rory Cockett, right?
He's up there, 100%. I can't think of it. Can you think of anyone that divides opinion worse or better than that in top 14?
I didn't understand that pantomime thing, but I see your question. If it's about somebody who divides opinion,
I'll take you to one, Benji. We'll go together to a pantomime. We'll show you.
Mate, there's one at the moment that is causing all sorts of upset. Is Teddy Thomas, when he took the piss out of Santi Cordero and stuff. So you don't know. I still think it's pretty harmless. When Mathieu Jalibert, he went to tap on thingy's heads, back in Castres. That's just a little bit too far. But I'm never going to forget that I grew up I started playing rugby in 2004 with Sylvain Marconnet, who was definitely by a mile the lippiest guy you would ever seen. And he would throw some things that if they got caught on ref mic, it would have caused him serious trouble. Yes, it was hilarious. It was super funny when you were not at the back end of that banter, when you were playing with him. Even sometimes I'm standing next to him, I'm like, please shut up, Silva. They're going to kill us. They're actually going to pull out some knives and some guns, and they're going to shoot me. They're not going to shoot you.
Yeah, but
you know.
But I'm like, for him, I'm like, fair play. He played in a confrontational position. I'm like,
Oh,
that's
he
different to
never
being a
backed
scrum
out.
half. That's
He
different to being a
never
scrum
backed
half
out.
and hiding behind everyone, you know. But like, if you're front row and you're still dishing it and getting away with it, respect. That's next level.
There's loads. That's what I'm trying to say. There's loads of guys who have always been on the edge. You know, are they just too much, or are they okay? And I don't think it's ever going to change. And you see the big mouth normally is going to be a number 9. It can be many other guys. It can be Mamuka Gorgodze that you just never wanted to look on the wrong side, because otherwise he'll shake you up like a tree. And then Rory Cocotte not being sized like Mamuka Gorgodze and Morgan Parra and Baptiste Serin and Jean-Baptiste Elissalde in the good old days. Man, they needed to be lippy. And so that's what they did. Augustin Pichot, I do not think he wanted to be on the other side of what he could have told you on the pitch, mate, because it was live or die situation. I'm going to eat you up however I need to do it. If I can outmuscle you, I can outmuscle you. If I can just eat your brains out by driving you bananas, then so be it. So yes, there are a lot of guys. All I'm trying to say is I can see it now because I don't play anymore. So it's, yes, I did play and score 50-meter try in Dubai, but that's irrelevant. Who's counting? You know?
We're still waiting for the video, mate.
No. But yeah, I just think it's pretty harmless.
And going back just briefly to the off-field issues, the politics, the logistics, do you think there's any way we're going to see rounds 3 and 4 in mid-January as scheduled or not?
I've got no clue, mate. I'm hoping that we can. I don't want to see another. I got my booster today. Woo! So I hope that a lot of people do it. I mean, I look at it. I think in France and England, it's like 1 million people a day can get their boosters. So I'm hoping that in a month's time, you can have a seriously different sort of scenario. I am dreading to see an empty stadium again. That would be a killer. I do not think they will cut the games completely. I think they will still play them behind closed doors or whatever it is, but that still is, we've been there. It's zero fun. So I don't have anything to do apart from pushing people to stay safe, do what they're told, get vaccinated if you believe that's a good thing, but I believe it. And let's hope for the best.
But it's the travel restrictions, isn't it, between France and the UK that are the issue, Johnny? So is there any way that they're going to be lifted? You'll know more about this by the middle of January when we need them to be.
It all goes down to exemptions. So it's the way it was 6 months ago, 12 months ago. If you're part of a sporting bubble, an elite sporting team, the same way that Benji and I were elite sporting commentators, which was ridiculous. But it all goes down to those exemptions. If governments think that professional sports should go ahead, they'll be allowed to travel and the games will go on. But like Benji said, for fans being in stadiums, that's the different question. So I'm just hoping this variant is way less aggressive. It seems to be good news coming out of South Africa that it isn't causing too much damage. And hopefully we can just get past it, move on and get back to normal as soon as possible. So fingers crossed.
And EPCI, I've got a couple of weeks to see how the situation develops and weigh up their options. But people are already probably getting ahead of themselves a little bit and talking about similar solutions to last year, I guess, where we go straight through to a knockout stage in April, maybe not have the 2-legged round of 16. So a lot of water to go under the bridge before then. But yeah, could you see that happening, Benji?
I don't even want to think about it, to be fair. Like I don't even want to go there. If it's really the last chance, the absolute work backs to the wall. We need to do something about it. Yes, of course. And you ask me in January, and I'll be the positive guy, and we'll try to say rugby's got its role to play in it. Then we just want to see some positive rugby played on the field. Even if there's no fans, we'll still make it work. We've got great commentators out there that will make you get off your seats, even without 20,000 people out there. Yes. But now I'm just crossing every single finger that I've got to make sure that it doesn't happen now. So I don't know. Basically, you're asking me to predict the future. I've got no clue. I'm hoping that nothing changes.
And like you alluded to earlier, you just don't want it to be a hollow tournament, because the teams that have worked to get that star on their jersey have gone through some seriously hard games of rugby and grafted the way towards earning it. So you just hope that it isn't the case that teams are picking up 28-0 victories, getting byes, ending their way with a chip in a chair in the quarterfinals of a Champions Cup. and winning would just be hollow. And again, there would be that little asterisk that we talk about next to their game. Was it actually deserved? Was it merited? We don't know. We just want games to be played. We want to watch it as a spectacle. You want fans to be in the stadiums, and you want to have the best sides playing against each other. So difficult to thrash out. Well, they're going to have to wait over Christmas and see what comes from governments, but you just want the best European teams going up against each other and crushing it. So fingers crossed that's what we'll get.
Right. We need a bit of uplifting. It's about time we did our meter moment of the week, isn't it? Not a huge amount of French involvement in Europe this weekend, so I'm intrigued where you're going to go with this. Do you want to take it away, Benji?
Mate, I've got one heater moment when you want to talk about being hot.
It can't be a 50-meter try in Dubai.
It's not a 50-meter try.
It is
in Dubai because people would ask for evidence, and then obviously
it doesn't exist, mate.
Oh mate, you would see that little tiny French truck just going, very very slow, and that would have been me. No, just a huge shout out to Leicester Tigers. Leicester Tigers again, another consecutive win with a rotated squad, beating Connacht at home. I don't think we've mentioned it in the last couple of weeks, but I'm just so personally chuffed that they're doing so well. Weird news about Ellis Genge leaving, but you got to respect the personal decision about going to Bristol. Just amazed about the work of Borthwick and all his staff and stuff, and just super happy to see them back on the front foot, back out there, beating Bordeaux without 3 or 4 of their best players, to be totally honest. In a very impressive way, and they keep on winning, and they rotate again. And yes, maybe Connacht were not the absolute number one team, maybe, and they had to rotate too. But just a huge shout out. The man meter of moment is just the incredible series that is still ongoing of unbeaten since last June, I think it is. Leicester Tigers beating Connacht at home on Sunday, and absolutely flying into this Premiership. Champions Cup, well deserved. It's not just an accident. It's a cultural change that is now delivering and giving it on the pitch, which is fantastic on a personal note to see. But I think everybody's happy to see them back where they should be.
What do you reckon, Johnny?
I think he's got it. Again, mate, battling. So mine was going to be Glasgow beating Exeter.
No one saw it.
Exactly. In a game that nobody saw because it was impossible to see the game. You got Richie Gray going up against his little brother, Johnnie. Glasgow, again, have been sort of up and down. They completely lack that consistency you just talked about, Benji, but that was a huge statement win for them. Like physicality, they just bullied Exeter. So maybe that's a mark of a team that's maybe on its way onto something. Again, the stadium's just around the corner from my parents' house. We thought about going, but COVID shat on that as well. But again, just a great win for them. It was hilarious watching part of it on TV because you couldn't see a bloody thing. So amazed that he managed to string that performance together and absolutely dominate Exeter. But I think you're right. I'll give you your one, Benji. Leicester have been utterly dominant and they've strung together, as you said, so many performances together. So I'll go with you. Meter moment of the week this week is Leicester Tigers.
There we go. That was Johnny and Benji's meter moment of the week. And Meter is the world's #1 wireless meat thermometer. They've made over 9 million cooks better with their revolutionary app as well. So it's no surprise their users are growing rapidly every day. If you've ever said your pork or turkey's dry, then Meter's for you. And you can use it on a barbecue, in the oven, or in a pan. Enter a whole new world of cooking and join the Meterverse at meter.com. Just use the code FrenchPod10 at checkout for 10% off any full price item as well. And we mentioned last week that we had a giveaway coming with Meter. Here it is. It'll be on social media in the coming days. A Meter Plus festive bundle to give away. All you have to do is follow us on Instagram or Twitter. Follow Meter as well. Tag someone in it who would love to cook with a Meter for Christmas. Worth over 150 quid, Johnny.
250 quid, apparently. But look, you get a Meter thermometer in it. So all the essentials to help you nail your Christmas Day turkey, a bit of beef, your steak, whatever you're doing. There's also mitts to help you take out of the oven or to keep warm. If you're a bit cold over Christmas, you use the mitts for that. And there's a nice bottle opener as well. So all the bits you need for Christmas. And as Tim said, you just follow us on social media and tag somebody under the post, and it could be you.
There we go. Will a Mr. B. Kaiser from Tunbridge Wells be entering?
Yeah, well, I would love to. I think that's a seriously good gift. I need to up my game. in terms of barbecue, and that's the perfect tool.
What are we all having for Christmas dinner this year? Turkey, beef, goose?
I'm lucky that my mother-in-law, my beautiful mother-in-law, is a hell of a cook, and so she does beautiful gammon, turkey, different type of stuffings, the proper English Christmas pigs in blanket. I discovered that. That's good. That's very good.
Do you not have them in France?
No
pigs. Oh,
no. No, I'll give you. So that's all the things that we do in England. I really like Christmas pudding and all that stuff. France would be different. France, for one, I used to do it with my parents on the 24th at night. It's more of a dinner thing, not so much. And then a Christmas on the 25th, you would still do it, but with some other families and stuff. It would be more. There would be some langoustines and some oysters maybe as a starter, and then you could have a goose, a duck, or something. We would go goose, whatever, a goose, as a main, stuffed and stuff. I always think it's delicious. And then you would have 12 type of different desserts. It's like to say because of the 12, I don't know what.
Days of Christmas.
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
12 different things. So that's something that's already different. But no Christmas sandwich. That doesn't exist in France. No. We don't do that stuff. We just get pissed and eat some delicious foods, and then just stick to the desserts until you pass out.
So you're having an English Christmas dinner, Benji, but if there was one French element that you could add in there that you can take with you, what's the one French element you'd bring?
I'm good.
It's got to be the seafood, right?
No, but
the wine.
I'm going to get in trouble. Well, the wine is French. That's just a given. All right. And then my father-in-law's got a good collection, so we're sorted. And I'll bring some, but we're good. Oysters, to be totally honest, there's some fantastic oysters in England too, so that's not so much the issue. We don't
have them at Christmas dinner. We wouldn't normally have oysters, so you can bring them.
Don't worry, I've influenced it already. We're already there. We're taking the best out of both worlds. No, what I would do, and I hope I don't get slammed for that one, but I would throw in a goose from time to time. Turkey is good, but I love the stuffing, and the stuffing is not turkey. so it could be anything else. It'll be all right. Goose, when it's good, is out flipping standing.
Johnny, how's your Christmas dinner looking?
I think it's going to be saved by mother-in-law. Again, you mentioned those magic words. And we're at Jen's parents for Christmas. So again, it'll be feet up. And hopefully she'll be pulling out the good. She's a phenomenal cook as well. So I'm actually really looking forward to it. I'm actually more worried about how many kilos are going to be piled on over the next 2 weeks. We can have a weigh-in when we get back in January. But no, just looking forward to it. It's going to be turkey. It's going to be classic British, Scottish Christmas dinner. And she does honey glazed and mustard dipped sausages that you then get to dip in ketchup. There's no wrapped in bacon, but they're a banging starter, and then turkey with all the trimmings. So looking forward to it. And the one thing I would take from France that I absolutely love that we've never done in the UK or in Scotland has been the seafood. I love in France the seafood. Everyone has fruits de mer. That's where everyone had when we were in Montpellier, Castres, and Bayonne. That's where everybody still has. And it's a big part of the tradition. We don't have it in the UK. That's the one thing I would bring over because it's banging. But no, looking forward to it. Looking forward to some family time, eating and drinking way too much, and rolling myself back to France, hopefully, if borders open again in the new year.
Sounds delicious. And no skin fold tests now, your commentators and Boxing Day.
That's done, mate. That is done.
Let's have a quick look ahead to the top 14's festive fixtures before we go then. Which ones are you looking forward to in particular? Benji, it's your favourite game on Boxing Day, isn't it? Brive, Clermont.
Be careful.
Don't get in trouble. Don't get in trouble.
Beautiful Brive town. I don't know if you guys have ever been, but it's well worth a trip. Oh, my words. No. Well, people still hate me there. Don't get me wrong. I will still back what I say. I still don't really believe it's an extraordinary derby in the sense that it's quite far, but we all love a rivalry. Brive play with a phenomenal amount of heart and determination, and they well deserve to be where they are, in the sense that it's a tiny little town that does extremely well with a beautiful stadium, to be right in the center of town, to be proud of what they're doing. And Clermont are a bit up and down, so I think it's going to be a tricky one. You got to be very careful in Clermont not to throw away the main ingredients, because otherwise, Brive is a proper wake-up call. If you try to overplay, if you try to think that you're too big, too beautiful, too quick, they're there to slap you around the face. So I still have some extremely fond memories of playing in Brive, or proper stadium that is, fanatic people around it. Now all the rest and all the idiots that are calling me all those names afterwards because they weren't happy about what they do, well, they can come and tell it to me next time I'm in Brive. I'll be very happy to speak to them. But no, a proper game of rugby, a proper confrontation between two teams, and two ways of doing it. Just a bit distant for me to be a proper derby, but still a hell of a game.
What do you think, Johnny? Brive could win that, couldn't they?
Yeah, they could. They're horrible to play against in Brive. They're a good, aggressive team. They're well organised by Jeremy Davidson. And yeah, they're decent. And Clermont, again, have been kind of shaky. In a few of the games we've watched so far this season, they've been up and down. Sometimes they've been phenomenal. Others, they've been a little bit unsure of themselves. So it's a big game for them. And then, look, there's loads of big games. Again, back to top 14. Every single weekend, there are big games. So the Classico, as they call it, Stade Toulousain against Stade Francais, that's always a big game. Stade Francais just nicked that win against La Rochelle at home last top 14 rounds. That's a huge game for them going to Toulouse. You've got Biarritz at home to Montpellier. You've got Racing at home to Pau. La Rochelle Lyon, again, that's a huge game of rugby. Toulon against Bordeaux. You've got Cheslin Colby back in action, back fit and playing. He played against Zebra at the weekend. They'll be looking for a huge impact from him. So, look, you've got loads of people and loads of games that are extremely important, and every single one now counts. You get to Christmas, New Year, Perpignan at home to Castres. It's a huge game for Perpignan, again, down the wrong end of the table. Biarritz as well at home. So, look, every single game now counts. Like the familiarity, the getting into the top 14 is now finished. It's now a make or break for all of these sides, and it's not easy, and the fixtures just keep piling up. So another exciting weekend of top 14 rugby ahead of us.
And it wouldn't be a week in French rugby without some transfer activity and gossip, would it? And some of it this week revolves around coaches. So Michael Checker has been linked with the coaching job at Narbonne, who are bottom of Pro D2, and lost 70-0 to Oyonnax at the weekend. So that'll look surprising to many, but he does live in the area, doesn't he? And the president of Narbonne didn't exactly rule it out recently when he spoke in the media.
Who is going to pay Michael Checker to be the coach of Narbonne? It's ludicrous. He lives in the area, but is that really going to happen? There's no way. No way. If it happens, it'll be as real as Benji's 50-meter try is all I'm saying. Like, that's crazy.
I thought you were going to put a wager on it then, Johnny. If it happens, I will.
But look, knowing a few of the boys that have played in Narbonne and knowing what they pay people, what they pay my friends as salaries, it's just not the same league. Michael Checker is one of the most renowned coaches in the world. He's coached at the top end of the game for 10, 15 years. Would he go to Narbonne purely as a consultant because he's bored and he lives in the area? I have no idea, but they're not going to be able to pay him properly. So I can't see it happening. I don't know, Benji, if you've got other intel.
Zero.
But, I can't see it happening. But it's a huge one if they pull it off. And again, it's two ex-teammates of mine that are at Narbonne, the coaches, Brice Mack and Julien Saron. So they're both good blokes as well. It's just not going right for them. So fingers crossed they can pull it back around and start building some results.
I'm sorry. It's not that I don't care. It's that I have zero input to have on Narbonne. I think it's been a complicated last sort of decade when, Rocky Elsom, I think, was sort of president, and then he was a player. And then I'm like, listen, I don't think that's the way forward for Narbonne. Now, can Michael Checker come and consult for a little bit? Yes, of course, he's a top coach. If they can manage to do it, good. If they can't, that's not the future. So I hope they are serious about building decent rugby there, because it's one of the historical sort of southeast, south club in France, and it's really important for them to be there. No, the only point that I was going to make in terms of your transfer, I didn't notice how well La Rochelle are doing in terms of recruitment for next year. I just saw that Tonga signed there, the back row from Racing, who's really talented, probably 8, but normally number 6. But they also signed Georges-Henri Colombe, the mad, ginormous, tight-head prop. That was pretty much under the radar. Like I didn't really hear about him going there. They obviously signed Teddy Thomas too. Yeah. That's some serious signings, and they're like French GIF and going there. That's great. I think Bordeaux also are on the verge or I don't know, have signed Tani Vili and Sipili Falatea, both GIF, both young from Clermont and stuff. So both super talented. There's some seriously good signings happening in the background. If Ronan O'Gara is still there, there will be a proper squad for La Rochelle.
He will be. That's the other one. We didn't talk about that over the past couple of weeks, but the fact that he was then, as the Munster head coach, left and he's gone to Bath for next season, and everybody jumped on it. O'Gara's going, he's going to go, but he's 6 months into a 3-year deal, which I imagine would be a fairly big, hefty deal with La Rochelle. There was no way he was going to get out. Like, Munster don't have the cash. Nobody's got COVID cash, so they can't pay these types of transfer fees, even for coaches. But he ruled himself out. But yeah, as you mentioned, they've signed some talented kids that are doing already some amazing things in top 14, and they're just going to get stronger and stronger. And the more he stays, the more they settle. They're going to be some team over the next 2-3 seasons. They're going to be seriously good.
And you mentioned Bordeaux, Benji. We've spoken a bit in recent weeks about speculation around Christophe Aurias's future, but he signed a new contract on Monday, so definitely staying, Johnny.
Till 2025, I think. And that's it. He had another year to run on his contract, but it just shows how well thought of he is in France and how well they've played under him. And again, he's done such a good job. When I was at Castres, he was really good, like proper coach. He did amazing things with Oyonnax as well, and he's doing it again with Bordeaux. And it's not by chance, it's because he's a top coach. So the fact they had 1 year left to run and they were trying to renegotiate and pin him down for 2 more years just highlights how much they think of him. And yeah, it's good for the club. It's good for them to have stability, which they haven't had in a long time, consistently in the top 6 with him at the helm. So it makes sense. Good coach, contract extension, well earned, and yeah, good on them.
And a bit of a rumour about a man you both know as well, who I think probably qualifies for your tournament in Dubai now, Benji, but Agustin Creevy could be going to Bordeaux or Bayonne.
Really? Well, good on him. I don't know. I think he was doing good in London Irish. He's a good player.
Still is, yeah.
Good player, top bloke. Not sure he can qualify for Dubai yet. I think he's actually too fit. You know, we don't accept people who are too fit, at least not in my league. But he's a top bloke, and his time will come soon enough. If he does go to France, mate, he'll love it. He's been there, done that. I think he played with you, didn't he? Montpellier. And he was just transferring from back row to hooker and still doing incredibly well. No, he's a top operator. Very good hooker, very good on the basis. And if he needs to finish in Bordeaux and stuff, where there's still quite, I think Menadier re-signed for a year, I just saw. And they've got Lamotte and stuff. So no, if he goes there in the rotation, he'll still bring something. And he still has a lot to offer.
Any other rumours, Johnny?
Danny Perzo moving from La Rochelle to Lyon. The Lucid prop, I think that's confirmed. Mika Evaldi moving from Lyon to Stade Francais. And that's another one that's been confirmed. And look, it'll just keep on going because now, especially with the 10s, we talked with Ihai West last week about his move, but once 2 or 3 pieces start to move, it goes quickly and it goes fast. And now is the time that everything gets signed traditionally in the rugby world 6 months out. Normally for most people, for most decent players, it's signed and it's sealed now. So over Christmas and January, there'll be loads of people signed up. So we've seen all the big teams like La Rochelle snapping people up. We'll see probably your old mate Morgan Parra decide where he's going over the next few weeks, and that'll be announced. So some big ones due to be announced over the next few weeks.
And speaking of transfers and money, the top 14 and Predator owners met in Lyon last week, and it looks like the salary cap in the top 14 is going to be cut to 10 million euros by 2024. So how do you think that'll affect things? Because it's still significantly more, almost double the amount in the Premiership, I think. So is it going to have a big effect or not?
You can't compare with the Premiership, mate, because there's no marquee player. So start counting the Premiership including the 2 marquee players, and then we can start comparing things.
They're reducing from 2 to 1 as well, the Premiership, I think, the marquee players. So, but yeah.
Listen, you know what I mean. When there's one guy that's off the books or 2 guys that are off the books, it's just not relevant to compare the 2. I don't know whether it's the way to go in terms of capping it. I haven't seen any extraordinary holes of financial holes, even post-COVID and stuff. And I think that I saw a really good article the other day that it was really interesting to see that La Rochelle, Toulouse, and Bordeaux, I think, were the 3 clubs that actually in French rugby were sort of leading the way in terms of generating a real economy and actually basing their whole success into a real economy. And I remember how I used to tell you how Toulouse were absolutely shaken like a leaf when COVID happened, when your main sponsor is Airbus. and they're losing billions every trimester. It's a complicated moment to go and ask them for a check to renew a sporting sponsorship, and they did incredibly well. So all those teams are hopefully winning. It's not hopefully, but are winning over the huge endless checkbooks of the Montpelliers, the Stade Français, the potentially Racing, all those teams, and that's what's proven to be successful. So that's very, very healthy. Do they need to touch on the salary cap even more? I don't know. I think clubs just want to say, listen, the future is uncertain. You can't start throwing money left, right, and center. For one, it's not productive. For two, it's not sustainable. And for three, it can put a tremendous amount of pressure that then will have implications on the way that teams actually play and the decisions that they take. So I think it's good, but you can't even compare to the Premiership as long as the marquee players are not in.
I think it's good. I think it's positive. I think it obviously is a push in the direction of sustainability. Like you mentioned, the endless days of checkbooks being open needs to finish. I think that means also we've already seen it with the GIF change, but there'll be another push in the direction of youth. So you'll see loads more kids coming in, getting more game time on smaller contracts and developing, which is only positive for French rugby as well. And the last one I think is great is actually it closes the gap a little bit on Pro D2. So for anybody that comes up from Pro D2 to get into that realm of the mass salarial or the salary cap and compete, it's almost impossible. So if we can reduce it a little bit in France, it might make it a little bit easier to bridge that gap for teams from Pro D2. So like already the budgets have always been bigger in France. It's just the way, I know we can talk about the marquee player or not, but the federation budgets for the other countries have always been slightly less. Budgets in top 14 have always been bigger. We've always had the best players, the best foreign players have always been in the top 14. It's always been the way. So I think if we can drop it a little bit, encourage more young French kids to come through, bridge that gap to Pro D2 and make it more sustainable while we do it, like those are all positive things. So, and I think it's good. It's all positive. And looking forward to it.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, Benji. And thanks to all you guys for listening throughout 2021 as well. If you haven't done already, make sure you hit subscribe, leave us a nice review if you can. Don't forget, you can check us out on Rugby Pass as well as on YouTube. And we'll be back for more in 2022. Have a great Christmas and New Year, guys.
Joyeux Noel. That means Merry Christmas, Tim. That's what it means. And bonne année. Meilleurs vœux, meilleurs vœux, meilleurs vœux.
I was waiting for Johnny's French.
Bonne fête à tout. Bonne fête à tout le monde.
There you go.
Merry Christmas, boys. Cheers. Happy New Year, everybody.